check it out. We are given a parabola, or the equation of a parabola in standard or transformational form here. We want to identify the vertex, the focus, the axis, symmetry, the directrix. Then we want to graph this guy. So I'm just going to go ahead and give myself some places to put my answers. Okay. So first of all, the vertex, very quick and easy to find. Look what's grouped with the x, look what's grouped with the y. We know it's going to be the opposite sign of each. And of course, the number grouped with the x is going to be the x coordinate. The number grouped with the y coordinate. Okay, so we already know our vertex. And eventually we want to graph this thing, so I'm going to just start putting down things that we know. All right, this is our vertex at 2, -5. Right there. Okay? Now notice that it is the y's that are being squared. Okay? It's the term with y being squared. So we know it's either going to open over here or it's going to open here. If you took notes on that past video, okay, so all that information from our general form, if our p-value ends up being negative, and before we go any further, we do need to know the p-value, which comes from that number hanging out in front of our term right there. Well, we know that -12 equals 4p, which means p is -3. So if our p-value is negative, we know it's going to open to the left. Just like with quadratics, with that being negative, we know it would open down. Typically, this would open to the right, but because p is negative, it's going to open to the left. Okay, so our p-value is negative. We know it's going to open to the left, which means our directrix is going to be a vertical line over here. Our axis of symmetry is going to be this line right here. Y equals -5. I can go ahead and write that down over here. There's our axis of symmetry. Our p-value is -3, which means it's going to go -3 to the right, -3 to the left. -3 to the right is a point right there. -3 to the left is a point right there. So our directrix is that line perpendicular to our axis of symmetry. This point over here would be our focus. Try to label. There is the focus. There is the vertex. This is our directrix. And this is our axis of symmetry. So our focus, when we take our p-value and we add it, in this case we know it's going to be opening to the left. It is a horizontal opening parabola. We take our focus and we add it to the x coordinate. So that gives us -1, -5, and we can see that on the graph. P-value is added to the x. We add it to the x because we know it is one of the horizontal opening ones. So that means our focus, our vertex, is on a point, and the focus is going to have that same y coordinate because things are just shifting to the left or to the right. We see that right there in our graph. The directrix we can see is x equals 5 is that vertical line where x equals 5. But how do we get that? We take the p-value, we subtract it from the x coordinate. 2 minus a -3 gave us x equals a +5. So we found this information, we started to graph it, but we know it's going to look something like this. But that's not good enough. We need to actually know what it looks like. So I'm just going to pick a very easy x coordinate to look at. what happens if x is 0? I'm going to take that, I'm going to plug it in for x and see what we get out when x is 0. Give us some points. Y plus 5 squared equals negative 12 times 0 minus 2. That gives me 24. When we take the square root of both sides, we get y plus 5 equals a positive or negative root 24, because when we take the square root, we get both of those answers out. When we do this, and I typed it into my calculator earlier to save us some time, we would get, when we take the positive or negative square root of 24 and then subtract 5 to get y, we get y equals a negative 0.1 or a negative 9.9. So we put in a 0, our x coordinate is 0, our output could be a negative 0.1, which is a point right there, or we put in a 0 and our output could be a negative 9.9, which would be down here. So it's not where this green guess was. Ooh. But instead of a parabola, it looks something like this. It's opening up. Notice how this point right here is the same distance from our focus as it is to the directrix. Those are congruent. So first find your vertex. Notice what your p-value is. Your p-value is crucial to finding the focus and the directrix. As you graph it, everything should make sense as it comes together, but we also have, back in our notes, you can look back to that screen where we look at that general form, that transformational form, and apply the algebra, look at the numbers to find those missing pieces.